All right, so are you ready to unlock some serious success secrets? Because today we are diving deep into Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, this is a good one.
It's legendary for a reason. It's been a guiding light for countless successful people. Think like entrepreneurs like Darren Carter,
Oh, yeah.
who credits this book for inspiring his whole company. Even personal growth gurus like W. Mitchell,
Huge names, yeah.
who call Hill the ultimate master of achievement.
You know what's so fascinating about Think and Grow Rich is that people mistake it. They think it's just a guide to financial wealth,
Right.
when it's so much more than that. Hill was tasked by steel tycoon Andrew Carnegie to decode these principles of success.
Mhm.
And he spent over 2 decades interviewing these giants like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, uncovering their secrets to achieving greatness in any field.
Wow.
And that's what we're really after today. It's like understanding those universal principles and seeing how they can apply to your own journey toward financial success, for example.
Exactly. And the first principle Hill dives into is this idea of desire. He's very clear achieving riches, whether that's financial wealth or success in any form you envision, it all starts with an intense, unwavering desire.
Yeah.
He shares a compelling story about Charles M. Schwab, a key figure in the formation of U.S. Steel,
Okay.
who had this crystal clear vision for consolidating the steel industry. And Schwab pitched this vision to J.P. Morgan
Mm-hmm.
with such unwavering faith that Morgan, a titan of finance himself, was completely convinced.
It's really a great example of how powerful a clearly defined desire can be. But Hill doesn't just tell you to wish for something and wait for it to happen. It's more nuanced than that.
Right.
He emphasizes the importance of taking action, of having a definite goal, a plan to achieve it, and then pursuing it relentlessly.
And, it's so interesting. Hill actually uses the story of his own journey writing Think and Grow Rich to illustrate this.
Oh, wow.
Remember, Andrew Carnegie challenged him with this monumental task,
Mm.
and Hill stuck with him.
For 20 years.
Yeah. For 2 decades, interviewing hundreds of successful people to try to crack the code of achievement.
Now that's dedication.
Talk about dedication.
It really is. And how often do we let ourselves off the hook when things get tough?
All the time.
Hill's own experience shows us what persistence really looks like.
Mm.
There's another great story he tells about a man named Edwin Barnes who was dead set on working with Thomas Edison.
Okay.
And Barnes was so determined that he traveled to Edison's labs in New Jersey by hopping a freight train.
Talk about dedication. He was literally willing to ride the rails to make his dream a reality.
Right. And when he finally met Edison, Barnes didn't even ask for a job. He declared that he was going to be Edison's business partner.
Wow. I would have been terrified. So did Edison just hand him the keys to the empire?
Well, not exactly. But Barnes's unwavering desire and persistence, it paid off. He started in a low-level position, but he worked his way up and eventually did achieve his goal of going into business with Edison. But the story of Edwin Barnes highlights a crucial point. It's not enough to simply daydream about your desires. You need to be actively pursuing them. What steps can you take today, no matter how small they might seem, to move closer to what you want to achieve?
Right. It makes you wonder if those small steps are what really set the stage for those overnight success stories.
Right.
But you're right. It's about taking action. Now, building on this idea of desire and action, Hill introduces a concept that I find incredibly intriguing, the power of the subconscious mind and autosuggestion.
Oh, this is where things get really interesting. And this is where a lot of people miss the practical application of what Hill's talking about. He argues that our subconscious is like fertile ground, and our thoughts are the seeds. Whatever we plant there, whether they're positive or negative, will eventually grow and bear fruit.
So if we're constantly thinking about our fears, about failing to achieve our financial goals, then that's what we're planting in that fertile ground.
Exactly.
No wonder so many people struggle to break free from those patterns.
Exactly. And this is where autosuggestion comes in. It's about actively planting those seeds of success.
Right. It's like those positive affirmations you hear people talking about.
Yeah.
But Hill takes it a step further, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
He actually used this technique to help his son Blair, who was deaf, to hear.
It's incredible.
And Hill convinced his son that he could hear, and incredibly, Blair's hearing began to improve.
It's such a powerful story that demonstrates the potential of this technique. And it underscores the fact that simply repeating empty words isn't enough. It's about truly believing what you're telling yourself,
Right.
about emotionally connecting with those desires. Because remember, your subconscious mind doesn't judge it, accepts and acts upon the thoughts and beliefs you feed it, especially the ones you believe on a deep emotional level.
It's about retraining our minds to focus on possibility, on abundance, on achieving those financial goals, rather than letting fear and doubt hold us back.
Absolutely. So we've talked about desire, we've talked about the power of the subconscious. But there's another crucial piece of the puzzle that Hill introduces, the importance of specialized knowledge.
And this isn't just about
Yeah.
being, generally well-informed. Hill is really specific about this. He says you need, like, specialized knowledge
Yeah.
in the area that you're passionate about. It's about becoming like an expert in your field,
Right.
in whatever area lights your fire.
I think that's such an important point, especially like today when we're just bombarded with information from all sides.
Yeah.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of like, oh, I'm going to learn a little bit about everything.
Right.
But Hill argues that like true success comes from focusing your energy and attention on developing deep specialized knowledge in a specific area.
He tells this great story about a woman during the Great Depression, and she found herself out of work. But instead of panicking, she kind of took stock of her skills, and she realized she had this knack for writing really compelling resumes.
Interesting.
And so she was able to leverage that,
I love that.
even in the midst of this major economic crisis, to create a thriving business for herself.
Wow.
And it's just this reminder that, like, even in the face of adversity, opportunities are there if you can find them.
It's like that classic saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
This woman had this need and she had this unique skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And she was able to combine those things to create something new and valuable.
Yeah, and it really drives home the point that we all have something, valuable to offer,
Absolutely.
even when times are tough.
Yeah.
If you can identify your unique strengths and find creative ways to apply them, you can create those opportunities.
And that's a powerful lesson, especially for anyone listening who's looking to achieve like financial success.
Yeah.
Because it's not always about having a ton of money to start with. It's about resourcefulness. It's about using what you have.
Yeah.
Your skills, your knowledge, your network
Exactly.
to create something out of seemingly nothing.
Okay, so we've got desire, we've got the power of the subconscious, we've got this specialized knowledge. What else?
Well, this leads us to another key principle in Hill's philosophy, and that's the power of imagination.
Okay.
He argues that knowledge alone isn't enough.
Right.
You need to pair it with imagination to achieve those real breakthroughs.
It's like that story of Coca-Cola. It wasn't just the secret recipe that turned it into this global brand, right?
Exactly.
It was Asa Candler's vision
Yes.
and those innovative marketing strategies that really propelled it into the stratosphere.
It's a great example because Candler understood that the recipe, while it was important, was only one piece of the puzzle. He used his imagination to envision how that product could capture the hearts and minds of people around the world.
It's about seeing the potential in things,
Yeah.
looking beyond the obvious, and like imagining these new possibilities. I love that.
Absolutely.
So speaking of seeing potential, Hill also talks about this idea of collaboration,
Yes.
what he calls the mastermind principle.
One of my favorites.
I love this idea. So tell me more about this one.
So the basic idea is that surrounding yourself with brilliant minds, people who can support you, challenge you, elevate your thinking, can basically catapult you towards success faster than you could ever get there on your own.
It's like building your own personal board of advisors,
Exactly.
your dream team of mentors who can offer guidance and support and accountability.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, and I think it's something that a lot of us crave,
Yeah.
especially on this path to like achieving our goals, whether they're financial or otherwise.
Absolutely. We all need that support system.
But even with the right mindset and, specialized knowledge and this supportive network, Hill also talks about these internal obstacles that we have to overcome. He calls these the 6 ghosts of fear.
Oh, yeah, the fears.
And he says these can be absolutely crippling if we let them.
They really can. And I think 2 of the biggest ones that he tackles, fear of poverty and fear of criticism, are so deeply ingrained in our society.
Oh, yeah, it's constant. It's like we're always hearing these messages about not having enough, about not being good enough.
Right. And it's no wonder that those fears hold so many people back from even daring to dream big.
It's true. So if you're constantly worried about money, about failing to achieve those financial goals, you're actually probably more likely to sabotage your own efforts, right? Because those fears are driving your actions subconsciously.
100%. And this is where it becomes so important to identify those fears and consciously work to overcome them. Hill doesn't advocate for ignoring them. It's more about confronting them head on,
Oh, okay.
understanding their root causes, and then developing strategies to kind of reframe those negative thought patterns.
So it's about shifting your perspective.
Yes.
So instead of viewing fear as this like insurmountable obstacle,
Mm-hmm.
what if we looked at it as an opportunity for growth?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And I think a great example of that is the fear of criticism.
Okay.
It's so easy to let that fear paralyze us, to prevent us from putting ourselves out there, from taking risks. But Hill suggests using that fear as fuel,
Yep.
as motivation,
Mhm.
to refine your ideas, to strengthen your resolve, and to ultimately become more resilient.
It's so true because so often we let that fear of judgment prevent us from, pursuing our dreams, from
Mhm.
sharing our ideas with the world.
Totally.
And Hill's saying, hey, use that to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, let it push you to be even better.
Right, and he actually offers a really compelling example of this, of overcoming fear and making these bold decisions. And it goes back to the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, wow.
Think about the courage that it took for those 56 men to put their names on that document,
Oh, right.
knowing they were basically signing their own death warrants if this revolution failed.
Yeah, if things didn't go their way, that was it for them.
Exactly. And Hill actually traces the origins of the American Revolution back to a series of seemingly small decisions,
Okay.
starting with John Hancock and Samuel Adams protesting the presence of British troops in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their actions that kind of sparked this whole movement, which ultimately led to the formation of the Continental Congress and the drafting of the Declaration of Independence.
Wow. So it's like this powerful example of how like individual actions
Yeah.
fueled by that, conviction
Mm-hmm.
and a willingness to confront that fear can have this ripple effect that literally changes the course of history.
Absolutely. And it also highlights that importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, people
Yeah.
who share your vision and your values.
Right. Because you can't do it alone.
Exactly. It's about finding that strength and support in this collective commitment to a common goal.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, while Think and Grow Rich focuses heavily on the mental and emotional aspects of success, Hill also emphasizes the importance of taking practical action.
Okay.
He stresses the need for a well-defined plan and the importance of persistence in executing that plan, even when you're faced with setbacks.
So it's not just about like the mindset.
No, it's about having a plan.
You got to have a plan.
You need that roadmap for how you're actually going to get there.
He tells this great story about this young man during the Depression who was determined to become a successful advertising executive.
Okay.
And instead of just like wishing for it, he actually took the initiative to create this like comprehensive plan outlining his ideal career path, researching all the top advertising agencies in the country.
Wow.
He even had a professional printer, create a high-quality resume bound like a book.
Oh, wow. So he understood the power of presentation.
It's all about standing out right.
Yes.
And it worked
Of course it did.
because his carefully crafted plan and his unwavering persistence paid off.
There you go.
And he landed his dream job.
I love it.
It just goes to show you that dreams are essential, but they need to be backed by practical steps
Absolutely.
and that relentless drive to achieve them.
100%.
And his story reminds me of Hill's thing about persistence being key.
Right.
Because Hill really argued that most people don't achieve success, not because of a lack of talent or intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
but because they give up too easily.
They give up right before the miracle happens.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And think about Thomas Edison.
Oh, yeah.
He supposedly failed 10,000 times before perfecting the light bulb.
But he didn't see it as failure.
Right. He's like, I'm getting closer.
Exactly. He saw them as I found 10,000 ways that won't work.
He's like, I'm getting warmer.
Exactly.
Oh, that's such a good point. It's like that whole thing about reframing.
Yes.
Instead of being like, ugh, I failed.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm just that much closer to figuring out what does work.
Exactly. It's about seeing those setbacks as learning opportunities.
Right.
You adapt your approach, but you never lose sight of that ultimate goal.
So persistence isn't about just like stubbornly sticking to a plan,
Yeah.
even when it's not working.
No, you have to be flexible.
You got to be able to adapt.
Exactly. It's about intelligently adapting your plan,
Okay.
collaborating effectively, and constantly seeking out new knowledge.
Right. It's like you always have to be learning.
Hill was a huge advocate for practical education,
Mm-hmm.
emphasizing the application of knowledge to real-world challenges.
Which makes sense, right? Because what good is knowledge if you can't apply it?
Exactly.
He encouraged seeking out mentors for guidance
Yes,
and learning from both your successes and failures.
it's all valuable information, right?
It's all data. I love how he talks about this idea of the invisible counsel.
Oh, yeah. It's like having your own personal board of directors from history.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
All those brilliant minds.
And you can kind of like tap into their wisdom,
Mm.
even though they're not physically here.
And Hill himself had an invisible council.
Really?
Oh, yeah?
Who was on his...
He had people like Napoleon Bonaparte, Abraham Lincoln, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
What a crew.
I know, right?
Talk about a power lunch.
And he'd have these like imaginary meetings with them,
Wow.
seeking their insights on his work, on his life.
That's such a cool idea.
It's about tapping into that wellspring of knowledge and inspiration
Yeah.
from like the greatest minds in history.
I love it. So we've covered desire, persistence, knowledge, collaboration, even facing our fears. Where do we go from here?
Well, Hill takes it a step further.
Okay.
With this concept he calls the sixth sense.
Ooh, this is where it gets a little mysterious.
It does sound a bit mystical,
Hmm.
but it's really about intuition,
Yeah.
that inner voice that guides us toward our purpose and helps us make those leaps of insight.
Like trusting your gut.
Exactly. Hill believed that this sense connects us to a universal source of wisdom.
It's like those aha moments when a brilliant idea just kind of pops into your head.
Yes. And Hill believed that those insights come from our subconscious tapping into this higher power.
Interesting. So how do we tap into that? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Well, he emphasized cultivating a positive mental attitude,
Okay.
practicing autosuggestion and engaging in regular meditation or quiet reflection.
So it's about like actively creating the conditions for inspiration to flourish.
Yes. Not just passively waiting for it, you
Right.
have to make space for it.
I like that.
Hill believed that this sixth sense is available to everyone,
Okay.
but it requires effort and dedication to cultivate.
You have to do the work.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about training our minds to be receptive to those intuitive whispers and trusting those flashes of insight when they come.
Like learning to trust your gut.
Yes.
That inner voice that often knows more than we realize.
Often more than our conscious mind wants to admit.
Well, that's so true. So for our listener who is on their own journey of self-improvement, maybe financial success, what are some of the key takeaways from Think and Grow Rich? What should they be thinking about?
I think it starts with defining your desires clearly and having that persistence to see them through.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. It's about understanding the power of your subconscious mind and using autosuggestion to plant those seeds of success.
Right.
It's about acquiring specialized knowledge,
Okay.
embracing your imagination, and building a supportive mastermind group.
Your own personal board of directors.
Well, exactly. It's about confronting your fears
Yeah.
and cultivating your intuition.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's about realizing that you are the architect of your own life.
You're in the driver's seat.
You hold the power.
I love it.
You have the power to design and create a life that you love.
And I think Hill would encourage our listeners to kind of, create their own invisible council.
Oh, absolutely.
That green team of mentors from history
That draw inspiration from.
to remind you that anything is possible.
Yes.
And to really identify your burning desires and take action,
No matter how small.
no matter how small.
Because as Hill said, every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit.
Oh, I love that. So embrace those challenges, learn from them, and never give up on your dreams, because Think and Grow Rich is so much more than just a book.
It's a guidebook.
It's a blueprint for success.
Yes.
It's a guide to unlocking your full potential.
And it's a reminder that we have the power within us to create a life of abundance, purpose, and fulfillment.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Think and Grow Rich. It's been a pleasure exploring these powerful ideas with you.
It's been my pleasure as well.